Welcome to The Funnel. My name is John Shea, and I'm president of Alignment Group. This is episode number 262 of The Funnel, Sales Managers' Problems and What Not to Say. Before we begin, I want to remind you to head on over to alignment-group.com/The Funnel. Subscribe, and you will receive a free coaching call. And just a reminder, I sometimes forget to tell folks that if you head on over to the website and you go to the podcast page, there's a couple of things you can do on that podcast page. One, you can listen to the audio. So if you're ever sitting at your desk and you want to just pop on a podcast, you can do that. Secondly, you can watch the video. There is a video version of this. Now, we post it on YouTube. We also post it on the website. And then finally, the show notes are at the bottom of, the episode. So you have in detail, in writing, everything that we've talked about here. So if that's important to you, you can get it right there on the website. Today's agenda: problems, stuff that gets you in trouble, and then finally, what you can do about it. So let's talk about sales manager problems. Now, as I was sort of noodling around with this podcast, I wanted to just clarify what I'm talking about here. It's who you are as a manager. And I'm not talking about how you sit and talk to people, but how you conduct yourself in the everyday business life as a sales manager means something. The things that you say mean something. So you know how, just think about coaches and teachers and political leaders and managers and, everybody that has some level of authority in the world or in our lives. What they say means something. And some people take it to heart. Some people take it inappropriately, right? Others read what you're doing and react and act based on accordingly. So not only is it the things that you say as a manager, it's how you say it. Have you ever heard that? It's not what you said, it's how you said it. And that all goes to body language and inflection and tonality and all of that good stuff in terms of how you speak. But it's important. And it's important to stay consistent. And if you have inconsistencies in the message and inconsistencies in the way you conduct yourself, you're going to have problems. You're going to have problems with team players, right? Being a team player, not being a team player. People questioning what a team player means, questioning the culture. So it's really how you conduct yourself as a manager that makes all the difference in the world. So I want to give you some examples of stuff that gets you in trouble, okay? So I'm going to touch on a couple of things, like sales cliches. So here's what I want you to do, and I want you to do this as an exercise in understanding what I mean by cliches or talking points. The next big thing that happens in the news cycle nationally, okay, right now in our world here in the U.S., we're dealing with Hurricane Harvey, which is a tragic situation and just unbelievable in terms of the depths of destruction and pain and suffering that hurricane has caused. Okay, so I think that's an example, or an example of maybe there's a new law being implemented or something to do with our battles, ongoing verbal battles, and with North Korea. So I want you to sort of take that big news item, and then I want you to go from news channel to news channel and spend like 15 minutes watching the pundits talk about it. And they're all throwing the same cliches out there. They're all on this sort of talking point. For a while there, we heard kick the can down the road. So everybody puts cliches out there and they speak in cliches. Here's another exercise for you. Turn on any sport that you enjoy, whether it's American football, European football, basketball, whatever it is. Turn on the sports channels and watch the interviews with the players and the coaches. It's all cliche. You can watch an interview with, got to give 110%. My teammates around me worked hard. Success only happens when we work together. It's all the same junk over and over and over again. It's cliches. And most of us just sit there and go, okay. Like back in the day when I was younger and a kid, I couldn't wait to get the newspaper and read the sports section and read all about my favorite players and teams and interviews, and then watch the occasional news on television. Now the news cycle with anything is so saturated with social media, online, ESPN, TNT, whatever it is, that people have resorted to saying nothing when they say something. They speak in cliches because it's what doesn't get them in trouble. So sales managers who speak in cliches cause themselves problems. Like, I need a little more from you this month. We need to step up our game. Take it up a notch. Those cliches tend to wear sales reps down because you're not really saying anything. You're saying it, but you're not. Okay, what do you mean by I got to take it up a notch? I'm at 130% of quota if I'm a rep. Or what do you mean I got to take it up a notch? What is that saying? Are you telling me you're not hitting your number and you need me to do more? Why are you asking that from me? So sales cliches tend to get sales managers in trouble because they don't use them properly and they use them as a crutch to speak to their team. Now, I throw out cliches or I say little kind of quotes in my world, and some of it's for fun, some of it's to try to get a point across and then explain it. Dad quotes. I say to my kids all the time, "Be the ball, Danny," which is a quote from Caddyshack. Now, they're not going to know what that quote's about, and they just say okay and leave. And one of my kids came back and said, I was walking into a final exam, and I said to this girl coming out, she was walking by me, and I said, "Be the ball, Danny." She said, "What does that mean?" And I said, "I have no idea, but my dad says it to me all the time." That's an inappropriate use of a cliche or a quote because they have no idea what I'm talking about. I didn't explain it right. So the point is when you speak in cliches, they tend to tune you out. Okay. The other thing I want to touch on is whatever happened to. This is the next one that bothers me. And I think I've mentioned this before. It's the one thing that sales people hate the most. Whatever happened to. They're working on a big deal or a big opportunity. And then they've done all their work. They're going through the process. They've documented it. Everybody's on the same page. And then out of the blue, a manager or the VP comes up or the business owner, "Hey, whatever happened to such and such?" And they look at you like, "Are you kidding me? It's all in the CRM. I just went through my boss with this, or I just went through this with so-and-so." And they feel like they're explaining themselves over and over and over again. Now, part of that's the manager, right? If the manager says that because they're not meeting regularly and they don't know what's going on and their boss asked them, their boss calls up, the VP or the owner says, "Hey, whatever happened to such and such?" "Well, I don't know. I'll find out for you." "Hey, whatever happened to such and such?" And then the sales rep says, "Well, it's in the CRM." "Well, why don't you just give it to me since we're on the phone?" Really? Seriously? That shows how much you care. That shows how much you pay attention to what's in the CRM. You're shooting yourself in the foot as a manager when you do that. You think you're having dialogue, and they answer it. They're happy to tell me, yeah, because you're their boss. They're not going to go tell you to pound sand up your butt. Probably should have said that. But you know what I mean. They're not going to go tell you to do something or get negative with you because you're their boss. So don't think because they're reacting in a neutral way or even semi-positive that they actually really feel that way. Okay, here's the next one. The next one is when you throw upper management under the bus. Like, this policy really sucks, and I agree with you, but we have to do it. You're not doing yourself any good as a manager throwing upper management under the bus or throwing your boss or your ownership under the bus. Like, this is really stupid. I agree with you. What are you, trying to be their friend? Trying to be the cool dad? The cool mom? It doesn't work that way. You're their boss. You have a policy to implement. If you have a problem with the policy, you deal with the owner with it. And then once it's done and it's decided and you step out of that room and you face the troops, you own it. You own it because you are management. You are not the rep. You're management. And the least they know about that, the better off they are. Well, I can understand how you feel, how you don't agree with that. I can see your point. But this is the policy and this is why, and this is what we're going to do moving forward, and we're going to support it 100%. And then you move on. Even if you think it's stupid. You try your best to stop stupid things from happening or things that aren't going to work. but it's not your job to side with the rep in front of them. Say, hey, I really I agree with you. They start losing respect for you when you do that, believe it or not. They know you've got their back if you really have their back. If there's something that went on with a commission or something that went on with a deal and you needed to deal with it, and you went to your owner and worked through it, or VP and worked through it, and then came back and said, this is what we're going to do, they know when you have their back. You don't need to tell them things like that. The next one is the helpless routine. When you play the helpless routine is there's really nothing. You're not throwing them under the bus. You think, it's out of my hands. There's nothing that we can do about that commission change. I'm sorry. It's out of my hands. Again, it's you're basically distancing yourself from the decision, pushing it on somebody else and saying there's nothing I can do. Well, what's worse than a helpless sales manager? Tell me, I want to know. You think that's going to endear you, that you're helpless? Again, if nothing can be done because the decision was made above you, then you just say, look, this is the policy, this is the decision we made, and we're moving on. And if they ask you the question, do you agree with this? How are you going to answer that? I'm kind of helpless. My role here as your manager is to implement the policies and procedures of the company. My opinions on every little nuance within the organization are not up for grabs, and they're not to be shared. That's private. So asking me if I like something or don't like or agree or don't agree is an inappropriate question. Our role is to drive revenue. Our role is to close business. Our role is to do this, and we're going to do it together. The next one is the different set of rules for different players. Everybody has to come in Monday at 9 a.m. except for so-so because they're selling more than you. What? Now, if you're bringing everybody in as a punishment, that's silly. And you're trying to exclude people who are, I think you need to deal with individuals as individuals and work through that. But if you have training programs or development programs or things that are necessary for people to be successful, everybody should be under the same set of rules. Now, you might say, well, we're training on this and they really know that. Well, great. Have them come in and be part of the leadership team that delivers it. You can do custom training per rep and coaching per rep, but there are sometimes that things need to be attended by everybody. Now, I had a guy who was 15 years older than me, had been around since the beginning of the company that I worked for, respected everything I did. When I asked him, hey, I'm having this thing, he never said, do I really have to go? He supported it, and he supported me. Even if he didn't like it, then he would come and yell at me if he didn't like something. That's the kind of senior sales reps you need to have on your team. But when you create a different set of rules for them, they act as if they're above the law. And then if you're in a heated discussion and you side with the team, and I got to be careful with this because I don't want this to sound, I think this is a lot like upper management under the bus. You want to be on your team side. You want to be the person that takes care of business for them, but you don't want to pull them into the muck of what you're dealing with above you. That's why you get paid to be a manager, so they can focus on what they need to focus on. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about that gets you in trouble as a manager, and you need to walk away from that. You need to stand tall, and it can be painful, and it can be difficult, and it sucks. I've been there. So what can you do about it? Stop with the cliches. Do your best to stop saying kick the can down the road. I used to get in these senior level meetings, and there were 5 or 6 that they would use all the time. Throw the baby out with the bathwater. Love that one. That was, and kick the can down the road. They were 2 pretty popular ones. Can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'd say that every time. Used to drive me crazy. The CRM eliminates whatever happened to. If you're actively inside of there, managing it, working it, reading it, understanding it, actually having questions. Hey, I was reading it. I was looking at your stuff in the CRM on this deal, and it looks like you're in this spot here. And I see next steps, but I'm wondering what your thoughts are from a strategy perspective as to why we're going in that direction. That tells them you're paying attention. You get the response back you need, maybe to do an update somewhere down the road. or to your boss without saying whatever happened to and having them start the story over and over again. And I'll give you the perfect example of starting the story over and over again. And I've said this before in the podcast. You pick up the phone, you call for support, whether it's a big company, you get somebody on the phone, you give them, they ask for your last 4 digits of your social, they ask for your address, verify your phone number, blah, 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 blah. Then you tell them the problem. Oh, I can't handle this. I got to escalate that. They escalate you to the next level and they ask you the same damn questions again. I already gave that to them. How frustrated are you? That's whatever happened to. So, real good reason to have CRM in place, have people actually complying and using it properly. Remember, you are management. You're not a rep anymore. You need to start acting like one. And that means biting your tongue and not saying sometimes what's really on your mind with the reps. And remember, the same rules should apply for all. Get yourself in trouble when you start creating special rules for special people. Thank you for subscribing to The Funnel. As always, you can find us on social media. All the good places, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. Email me, jshay@alignment-group.com with any questions. Head on over to the website. There's cool stuff you can download. As always, thank you for subscribing and keep filling the funnel.